Record. Hello, this is Colleen Morley for CMSA Chicago, and welcome to another episode of CMSA Chicago Member Spotlight, our informational video series by members about members discussing the various specialties in case management. Today's video puts the spotlight on my very good friend Mary Jo Cronin, RN, BC, MSN, and ONS, I believe is what Mary Jo has. She's RN board certified through ANCC for case management, and she is an oncology certified nurse as well. She currently is working for Advocate Aurora Health at Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn, Illinois. And of course, with her background, her specialty is oncology case management. Mary Jo has her ADN from Triton College, her BSN from Governor State, her MSN from Lewis University. Like I said, she's an RNBC in case management and ONS oncology certification, active with CMSA since 2004, and is actually past president of CMSA Chicago, as well as several other positions on the board. She also served as the ANCC content expert panel for the RNBC case management test between 2011 and 2018. She's also the Joyce Wojtek award-winning Award for Nursing Excellence at Advocate Christ Medical Center, as well as multiple MVP Rise Award winner. Is that about right?
That's about right.
All right. And in addition to this, she has two fabulous grown children who adore her and whom she loves to death. So, Mary Jo, thank you so much for taking time out on this wonderful snowy Sunday to chat with me. And we go way back, but it's interesting. I want to get some more feedback from you on a professional level. Tell me a little bit about how you got to the role that you're in today. What was your career path to get to where you're at now?
As a nurse's aide, I always was wondering when people would come in that I would work with, I thought it would be interesting to be a nurse. And at the time I was working for Arby's roast beef restaurant. And so I went back to school. And actually my mom had gone into the LPN program and decided halfway through it that with 7 kids and a couple, a lot to do, she said, why don't you try going? I said, I tried. So I went and did the LPN certificate, which gave me the opportunity to get into McNeil Memorial Hospital in Berwyn. And I worked there for probably 3 or 4 years before, using the tuition reimbursement, I got my nursing degree, my ADN. So as the time went on, I was finishing my BSN, and there was a position opening up on the unit. I was working on the oncology unit at the time, and it was a care coordinator. And I thought, that sounds interesting. And you had to have a bachelor's degree to be eligible to do that position. So I jumped in with both feet, and maybe 5 or 10 years later decided that I would get my master's in nursing. And the focus at that time was in case management. But halfway through the program, they decided to cancel it because there wasn't enough interest. So we had 2 choices, education or nursing administration. So I thought with case management, nursing administration was pretty much closest to it. So a long, nice road, but every single opportunity gave me an opportunity to learn more.
That's excellent. So what does a workday look like for you as an oncology case manager?
Well, I'm unit-based, and we have a dyad with a social worker and a care manager. So when we come in the morning, it's usually what happened in the last 12 hours, because a lot can happen. You can have a wonderful plan, if they say, how do you make people laugh, make a plan. So we usually find out if anything happened during the nighttime. We meet as a group with all the nurses. They each come in and talk about their patients, why their patients are in the hospital and why they continue to be in. And we talk about any barriers or anything that we can help with. The nurse is the one who's still in charge of the case, but we're there to help them out. As the day goes by, basically there's a lot of focus on the throughput and getting people to be discharged. So there is medical equipment and home health companies that I'm focused on, and then my social worker, they do the hospice and the nursing home placement. But we're both so intertwined that it's a little bit of both.
So what do you enjoy the most about the work that you do right now? What excites you the most, and what do you think are the biggest rewards that you get from your career?
What I really like is I like to do assessments. I like to walk in, get a little bit of information from the chart, But as all of us know, until you walk in the room and see somebody, which COVID has changed that a little bit, because some of the patients were able to see face to face, masked and distanced, and some of the patients we have to interview over the phone. So because I like doing assessments so much, I have to try to ask questions to try to picture what's going on with this patient. And then sometimes, even though the chart says everything about the patient that we need to know, walking in the room with our eyes and looking at a patient and saying, hey, how are you? It tells us a lot.
Absolutely. We had that discussion the other day. Is there something that surprised you about the role when you first started it?
I was surprised about two things. And these aren't really negative things. They're more like surprising, as you said. I was surprised when people would say, oh, how do you like it since you're not a nurse anymore? Or they would say, you're trying to kick out my patient. So I wasn't prepared for, the reaction that I got from people days before who didn't have that reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an opportunity for education, because a lot of people don't realize when they get stuck in one role for a long time, they don't realize there's a lot of nursing opportunity. It's probably the best job for going anywhere you want to. Anything interests you, you can keep like a chameleon, you can keep changing yourself.
I agree with that 100%. So
and then our physician partners, we just basically, it's almost like you want to prove yourself. And so then once you prove yourself and they know you're not saying when's your patient leaving, but more like, how do we keep them from not leaving until we're ready to discharge them?
Good point. So what do you think are some of the biggest challenges that you face on a day-to-day?
The payers have a lot to do with it, because we have to work with people that are in network to get them the services that they need. If they're unfunded, we work with all of those situations to try to think outside of the box.
Always a very sticky subject is trying to figure out what's next and how to best serve our patients, making sure that they have everything that they have to be successful. I agree. So what's from your perspective as an oncology care manager, what are some of the skills that you think are most important for somebody who might be interested in becoming an oncology care manager?
With when I look at all the nurse case managers in our hospital, we're all very different, but we all have some similarities. A lot of us like to say that we're very detail oriented. You have to like change, because if you don't like change, you're going to be in for a surprise, because on a daily, minute by minute, hour by hour basis, things can change. But we're also very detail oriented. I like to be careful to not work too long, because our social workers are very, very smart. They're very skilled in making limitations. And so what they do is they manage to be able to get all of their work done in a certain period of time. So we're learning from our colleagues how not to let the wheels get off the road, and how to actually balance professional with personal. And so that's one thing I learned from my social worker colleagues that I work with. Case manager wise, you have an area of expertise that you like, and sometimes people are not educated in their certain area. That's okay too, because all of us support each other. I call people when I get something that I can't handle in one way or another, I don't understand. They're like, what does this mean? And someone else will call somebody up. So we share very much. We're not little silos where we're going to just worry about our own little floor. We get a lot of information from all of our peers. If we all of a sudden we got something on a drip of some kind that we don't understand. And keep in mind also on the weekend, what is nice is, even though you're in one specific area, on the weekend, we cover more of the floor. So I kind of like going to the orthopedic unit, or I like going to, the telemetry unit, another surgical unit, to see how things are going on. It's never boring.
Yeah, and the opportunities for learning never end.
Never end. I've always been interested in CEs and getting both with our committee that we had at the hospital. That's taken a big change this year, but we're trying to think outside of the box. How are we going to be able to get our CEs and then still be able to have opportunities like that, because of the one-on-one learning that's so restricted.
Yes.
But this is constantly learning. So anybody who has an idea that they're never going to have to take any classes again, or I'm done with college, I'm never going back, it's like, you learn constantly. And the more you learn, you realize the more you don't know.
Oh, absolutely. So I remember you told me that you were the chair of the education committee for the case management department at your current job. What are some big projects that you're working on now, or that you maybe have finished up in the last couple of months?
Well, we're a group of four. I'm the co-chair, but there's a group of four of us that we're using on a monthly basis. We were providing from, for CEs. So that changed a lot with the COVID. So we're not face to face anymore. So what we're trying to think of this year is how do we go about getting information to our peers. What is nice is everybody emails things to each other that they find from other companies. Any big project right now? Not at the moment, but I'm sure something will crop up tomorrow that we can help out with.
Oh, we've always got projects for you, Mary Jo. Don't
Always
worry
got
about that. So last question. How has being a member of CMSA Chicago benefited you in your career?
I remember walking into my first meeting and thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know any of these people, which it's always a challenge to do that. And even whether you're an introvert or extrovert, it still can be difficult. But I remember I thought, oh, this is really interesting because it's almost the entire whole global look at case management. We have our peers from different insurance companies. We have some of the vendor peers that were there. And it was interesting to see what happened. How can they contribute to what we're doing? How can we contribute to them? What can we learn from each other? And see the other side of the equation, because it is not a people get admitted and people get discharged. It's where did they come from? What was their experience before they got in there? Why did they get admitted to the hospital? What's going on during, and how can we hand off to our insurance peers, for example? There's a lot of new case managers, and not new, but there's a lot of case managers at insurance companies that we will pick up the phone and say, I have your member, this is what's going on, can you touch base with them afterwards about XYZ? And they really appreciate that. And then I really appreciate and respect the fact that they've had a relationship with somebody perhaps for some years for some chronic diseases, and they'll call up and say, we'd love to have a handoff of this kind, this way, and it works out very well. So you realize you're not, once again, in a silo. You're actually a big part of this whole patient's care, and really the patient is what we're concerned about.
Absolutely. Any last thoughts you have?
I think that what I like most about case management is just having the opportunity to be with the patient. And earlier I mentioned briefly about interviewing patients, and actually CMSA has a motivational interviewing class that you can take, which I haven't had a chance to grasp that yet. Because really, when you sit down and you talk to a patient, we've got time. I know we have a big caseload, which is usually about 20 to 22 at a time, but at the same time, there's not 22 people that you're looking at every single day. You wouldn't have enough hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
But just the opportunity to interview people, and actually the opportunity to go into their space. I mean, when we talk to some of the younger nurses, or even some of us that have been around for a while, we're walking into their territory. We're walking into their home. That's what that hospital room is. So when they learn about how they enter and how you knock and you wait and you're briefly waiting because you're going into their space, and then making sure you sit down, because there's so many people seeing each patient on a daily basis that a lot of times, sometimes we just forget to sit down and say, how's everything going? What's going on? Mm-hmm. Because you can really get a lot of information.
Absolutely. Need to really put that patient relation first. Excellent. Well, Mary Jo, I want to thank you very, very much for joining me on this incredibly snowy Chicago Sunday afternoon.
And it's snowy for us. What about
it? It is absolutely. I think we've got 5 inches so far. And
a little snowy.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your service with CMSA Chicago. I know we value you as a member, and I value you as an incredible, gifted case manager, mentor, and friend. So thank you very much for your time today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.